Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As Quentin has already said there, I'm here today, hopefully, in my short presentation to tell you how we're going to address inequality, not only as part of the development of the community plan, but also through the delivery process. And I also hope, at the end of this process and presentation, that you will know that we are committed to addressing those imbalances. In terms of the presentation, I just wanted to start by giving you a bit of context. First of all, many of you may already have seen the outcomes framework for the community plan, where we've identified the 3 pillars of economy, social and environment. To the left-hand side of that pillar are the cross-cutting themes, but overall, on top of the framework, you have the term equality. So equality is very much an overarching theme throughout the development and delivery of the plan. Also, in terms of our statutory duties, like any other public authority, the Council is under a number of obligations as part of the Northern Ireland Act 1998, and those are around the promotion of equality of opportunity to 7 or to 9 equality groups, and also the desirability of promoting good relations among a further 3. And also, but very fundamentally, the Council is a public body that is committed to meeting the needs of the citizens of this area. And in that context, equality is not only a legislative requirement, but is actually good practice and good common sense. This slide, although it does look a wee bit busy, hopes to illustrate a number of the tools that we will be using as part of the process of embedding equality. At the top of the slide there you see the Audit of Inequalities. We're currently working on this, and really what the Audit of Inequalities is it's a review of our functions and our services in terms of evaluating the impacts on Section 75 groups. Out of that analysis, what we would hope to do is identify areas for improvement and therefore actions that we can actually put into our equality and disability action plans and into our corporate or into our strategic community plan. Obviously, as well, a number of our statutory partners in the room will also have audits of inequalities, so we'll be seeking to capture that information and build it into our process. The other key area within this diagram is the enhanced equality impact assessment. I'm going to touch upon the term enhanced later on, but the equality impact assessment itself is a formal 7-stage process, which there's guidance set out by the Equality Commission. It starts with defining the aims of the policy and ends with the monitoring the impacts. We are clearly going to do an equality impact assessment of the community plan, and that will look at the actions and the outcomes and the measures that we have within that draft document at this stage. And again, I'll give you a bit more detail of that later on. But very, very importantly, also in terms of the process of embedding equality, and as I say, this is not a one-off task, it's about making it a reality, so therefore it's important to embed. So once the strategic community plan is developed, we would hope to cascade and integrate equality objectives and actions, not only into the Council's plans, whether they're corporate plans and local plans, but also into stakeholder plans as well. And Paul McNutt has touched a bit about this in his previous presentation there, is our approach is bounded or framed in the context of three themes, really evidence, direct engagement and consultation. In terms of evidence, we're looking at primary evidence such as the citizen survey, which gave us a range of views on many topics, but we're currently doing a sub-analysis of that to identify what are the specific Section 75 issues arising out of that survey. We're looking in detail at the focus groups in terms of what Section 75 issues are there. Also, we're looking at the consultations from children and young people. We're looking at our service monitoring details. We're looking at our good relations audits, and we'll also be seeking monitoring information from our partners. From a secondary perspective, as again has been highlighted, substantial work has been done in terms of developing statistics and research in terms of the social, economic and environmental outcomes, also in terms of data relating to Section 75 groups, and all of this work will actually be cascaded down now through the community planning process to a DEA level. In terms of direct engagement, as the Chief Executive has said, this has been a co-design process. So by virtue of so many people being involved in terms of all of those thematic working groups, a great deal of information will have already been collated in terms of the equality issues in developing the plan. However, we're going to take that another stage further, as indicated, through the sort of the rollout of an equality group. And that equality group will be about informing and quality assuring the processes we have for embedding equality and addressing inequalities. And thirdly, there's consultation. As already highlighted, there will be a consultation process in terms of the draft community plan, but there will also be a consultation at the same time around the outcomes of the equality impact assessment process. That again allows people to challenge or approach, to make recommendations for improvement, and that will be fed into and influence the shape of the final plan that is developed. In terms of the equality impact assessment process itself, it's a term that's very, very widely used. As I said, it's got a formal 7-stage process, but I just want to highlight to you 3 core elements which will help us address inequality. Firstly, in terms of the examine stage, we will look at the draft community plan in terms of the aims, objectives, actions, and even the measures that are developed within that draft community plan. Consider the evidence, whether it's research, statistics, or consultations around the Section 75 groups and the citizens who live in this area. With that information, we will then assess the impacts in terms of Section 75 groups and those people with multiple identities. And what I mean by multiple identities is maybe women of a certain age, for example. And I have mentioned that this is an enhanced equality impact process, which we are actually developing and will be unique probably for this area. And when I say it's enhanced, not only are we looking at the impacts of those groups in terms of Section 75, but we will also have a focus on social need and rural need and the cross-cutting themes within that process. And those cross-cutting themes, for example, involve good relations and sustainable development. The final stage then, in terms of the 3 processes I want to highlight, is about identifying measures to mitigate any adverse impact. And clearly, if there's any gaps in terms of promotion of equality, we need to look at mitigation and also alternatives to better achieve equality of opportunity. Fundamental to both of those processes will be removing barriers to equality as necessary and addressing inequality. In terms of embedding, as I say, which is really what we're doing, this is not a one-off exercise, it's very important that we have effective monitoring, review and adjustment purposes and process in place. So apart from the normal monitoring of the community plan that will be rolled out, there will be specific monitorings of the equality impacts as part of the equality impact assessment process. And that monitoring will be publicly available, so it will always be open to challenge and scrutiny. Again, as a public body, we're required to annually produce a progress report to the Equality Commission on how we've delivered our equality scheme. Part of that is about giving an update in terms of progress about our equality and disability action plans. And then very, very fundamentally, all of those review processes will be fed back into the plans of the Council and stakeholders, so as to make sure that there is a continual process to ensure that corrective actions are taken as necessary, unanticipated outcomes are addressed, and any improvements we identify are actually put into the planning process. My final slide, we have touched over it very quickly here, but we'll be in the process of setting up an equality group, which we would envisage would include members of all the Section 75 groups. The key role of that is to inform and quality assure, as I said, this addressing of inequalities and embedding of equalities. Clear benefits of having a dedicated stakeholder group is around people being able to bring local experiences to the table, to highlight specific evidence in terms of the needs of Section 75 groups, which maybe hasn't been brought to the fore already, to provide unique perspectives that will help identify gaps and differences and even make improvements to what's already there. We haven't defined the clear role of this particular group at the moment, and that will be subject to consideration by the group members themselves. But clearly, there will be a role in terms of scrutinising the draft plan to look at the identification of impacts and issues, to look at identifying mitigation and alternatives, and as I say, removing these barriers to participation and inequalities, and also identification of equality indicators for future monitoring purposes. And any other suggestions or gaps within the plan. Again, that's a very quick overview, but I hope it illustrates, as I said, that we are taking the issue of embedding equality very seriously in the plan, in the rollout of the plan, and we are committed to delivery. Thank you.